Hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. Have you heard of this guy? His name is Michael Bennet. He claims to be a Coloradan. He claims to represent the people of Colorado. He's one of our two U.S. senators serving in Washington, D.C. But I got to say, I think he's more at home in Washington, D.C. than he is here in Colorado. He's an East Coast transplant who, in my opinion, came here for his political career. No roots, no ties to Colorado, but of course now he wants to be our governor. So this article just came out recently over at CPR. Colorado Senator Michael Bennet seriously eyeing run for governor. One of the biggest disqualifications for this guy is just listen to him talk. His accent is nothing at all like somebody here in Colorado. Definitely an East Coaster. Um, we'll get into his history here, but you got to see who this guy is. He's a total creep in my mind, total establishment partisan. I mean, here's kind of my thoughts on this guy. Let's send Colorado tax money overseas. Why not? He's Yale, Wesleyan, USAID, all of these connections here. We're going to go ahead and dig into. But I do encourage you to listen to what he has to say. Listen to him speak. Talk about him going to Ukraine with his friends, these other senators there. Listen to how he talks, and you'll say, "Oh my gosh, where is this guy even from?" For one. But I put this article together last time he was running for election a couple years ago, and just want to go through some of his background here. You know, in my mind, Bennett is a member of the Washington, D.C. Democratic establishment, no connections to Colorado other than political appointments. And of course, raising energy prices, increasing the size of government, supporting war, spying, and attempting to disarm the people of Colorado. I'm really hoping the voters have had enough. So, really, he didn't win greatly in 2016. He did win all right here in 2022, unfortunately. But I want to tell you a little bit about this guy because I think he'd be a disaster for being governor. So I say he was born into a life of privilege and access. Bennett's rise to the top is built on his family connections. If the average Coloradans knew who Bennett is, they would know he does not represent Colorado voters. So check this out. And this is all linked. Everything's hyperlinked. I've looked at some of articles, some different places, biographies of the guy. Born in India in 1964, while his father was working for the ambassador Chester Bowles. So his father was an ambassador to India, working for the ambassador, excuse me, to India back in 1964, where he was born. Definitely kind of an interesting lifestyle there. Bennett was raised in a family of Democratic Party insiders in Washington, D.C. and Connecticut. That's a lot of where his accent comes from, is that Connecticut sound. He attended St. Albans, a prestigious college prep high school that has a long list of famous alumni. Definitely really well connected there in Washington, D.C. Really prestigious school. His father was Douglas J. Bennett Jr., who was a longtime Democratic insider. He ran USAID in the Jimmy Carter administration. So of course, a lot of people hadn't heard of USAID until recently, until it's being they're trying to shut it down in DC, since all this money overseas, pushing this huge agenda that probably a lot of Americans don't agree with, involved in some very nefarious activities. Well, Bennett's father was running it for a while. Bennett's father, Douglas Bennett, was also an aide for Vice President Hubert Humphrey. He was the president of NPR for 10 years. He worked in Bill Clinton's State Department in the mid 90s and served as president of Wesleyan University for over 10 years. So, I mean, if you just look at his father, it's about as connected as you can get. To run USAID, work for the vice president, be the president of NPR, work for Bill Clinton. I mean, come on, folks. This is a life of privilege for sure. This is where Michael Bennett grew up. Michael Bennett's grandfather was also an economic advisor to FDR. Michael Bennett's brother, James Bennett, was the editor for The Atlantic and ran the editorial page at the New York Times. I mean, that tells you so much about who this family is, how connected they are. I mean, I said that Bennett is an intergenerational member of the DC Democratic establishment. I don't know how anybody could disagree with that. Totally the opposite of the average Coloradan's experience in life. Now, check this out. This is Bennett's adult life and career. 1987, earns his BA from Wesleyan University. His father and grandfather went there, and of course, we know his father was running the place for a while. 1988 to 1990, was the personal assistant to Ohio Governor Richard Celeste. 1993, graduates from Yale. A lot to say about Yale there. 1995 to 1997, counsel to U.S. Deputy Attorney General and Special Assistant U.S. Attorney. 1997, marries Susan Daggett, who's an environmental attorney. She worked for the Sierra Club and is now a DU law professor. So there you go. 1997, at age 34, Bennett moves to Colorado, where his wife Susan accepts a job at Earth Justice Legal Defense Fund. 97 to '03, he's the managing director of Anschutz Investment Company. He was involved in the merger creating Regal Entertainment Group. Remember that movie theater chain? It was the largest movie theater chain in the world. Then he was chief of staff to Denver Mayor John Hickenlooper for 2 years. Of course, now they're both serving in the U.S. Senate. 2005 to 2009, superintendent of Denver Public Schools. No education background whatsoever, but hey, he's so connected. 2008, on President-elect Obama's shortlist for Secretary of Education. Wow. 2008, OpenSecrets.org shows Bennett's net worth at $17 million. Where is he getting all his money from? Hasn't had a real job, really, but oh well. 2009, appointed by Governor Bill Ritter to U.S. Senate following Ken Salazar's appointment to the Secretary of Interior. So there you go, another appointment, another vacancy appointment. We're always talking about those, it seems, these days. 2010, his campaign for re-election spent $13 million compared to Ken Buck's $4.8 million. Bennett won by only 1.7%. 1.7% in 2010, less than 29,000 votes. Wow. In 2020, he ran for president, raising over $6.8 million for his campaign. And in 2022, his net worth is estimated $15 million, the 12th wealthiest member of the U.S. Senate. I mean, this guy is as far removed from the life of the average Coloradan as you can get. I think his connections there need to be explored. I think people really need to be aware of this. But yeah, he made a small fortune, went to all these different connected institutions, and there you go. There was some controversy actually back in 2005. Check this out. John Garcia, chairman of the Hispanic Public Affairs Committee, fears Denver Public Schools (DPS) will become another arm of the mayor's administration. He says, quote, "That's the hidden agenda. You can smell it's political. This is a disaster for DPS." They're talking about Bennett's appointment here. It's totally political. Marcia Berger, an English teacher at Abraham Lincoln High School, also saw politics in the selection. Quote, "It's more of a political, number crunching, business kind of person in charge as opposed to somebody who has an educational background," she said. During a news conference Monday, Woodward forcefully denied that politics, quote, in the usual sense of the word, played a role in the decision to pick Hickenlooper's chief of staff over two women with solid backgrounds in education. Of course, I would say it's totally political. Hickenlooper also went to Wesleyan. They're both very, very connected to each other in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, you got to check it out. Bennett's, get on his X feed, read what Bennett says. I mean, it's the total East Coast Democratic Party establishment talking points. This guy has more in common with the Washington, D.C. staffers than he does with the average Coloradan. For him to be the governor of our state is basically just, as my friend Frank calls it, another form of progressive colonialism, where you get these people from the East just moving here to Colorado and imposing their way of life on us. So I hope the voters see through it. I hope this information gets out there, and I hope people really question why we should have somebody like Michael Bennet as our governor of Colorado. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.